Good morning, wherever you are. I know it's early for some of you guys on the West Coast. We don't normally start our podcast live. It's what you make it early in the morning, but we have a special guest for you today. And I'll tell you what, you don't want to miss this. And I thought I'd jump on here by myself for this special episode because I want you to make sure everybody that you want to hear the relationship between your oral microbiome and your gut microbiome and how important all these things are for our health today. Why don't you tag people in the comments right now? Put, if your neighbor, if you want them to listen. And the cool thing is what happens on Facebook stays on Facebook. What happens in YouTube stays in YouTube. So even if they can't listen right now, we would love for you to have them join us, even if it's watching the replay. So go ahead and tag all your friends that you want to hear about this. I know you've invited a lot of people to hear this morning and listen, but you know, life gets in the way sometimes. Things happen. Something breaks down in the house, the kids' lunch isn't ready, and you couldn't join this morning so they can watch later, okay? So I want you to know I'm pumped. One of my greatest joys in life is sharing amazing people that I've gotten to meet. And this amazing person that's going to share with us today, I got to meet because someone else paid it forward and did that same thing with me. My friend, Paula Tate, introduced me to her cousin. She calls him uncle, I think, but she introduced me to her cousin, and it was a blessing in my life. And what I want to do is, as we have our podcast this morning, I want to bless your life as I get to interview Dr. Tom Nabors. But I want his niece, or cousin as it really is, but we'll call her niece. I want niece Paula to introduce Dr. Tom. Paula, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here. It's a great honor for me this morning to do this. And, it became very difficult to do. It's easier if you don't know someone really well because there's so much you want to tell about somebody this special. But I've known Uncle Tom my entire life. And I know that he is a man of faith and family and country. And I know he's most proud of his marriage to I call her Aunt Marion, for 58 years, and their 3 kids and all their grandchildren. Uncle Tom and I have had conversations for years. One of the first experiences I had introducing him to Juice Plus was when I attended a seminar. We didn't have Zooms 30 years ago, which is how long I've been with Juice Plus. And I attended a seminar in Jackson, Mississippi, and I drove to Columbus. And he and my aunt were one of the first to hear about Juice Plus. And I think he was intrigued at the time, but then we didn't have much research. Well, not much at all. But now we have such a plethora and such a wide array of studies that are amazing. But fast forward to today, I had about 6 months ago a dental emergency, and I was going to have to lose a back tooth. And I was shocked. I'm like, how is this possible? I go to regularly to the dentist. I don't understand. And the periodontist that advised me, I didn't feel peace in my spirit with this advice. And I prayed about it for the weekend, and he wanted the tooth to come out immediately. And I called Uncle Tom right away on Monday, and I said, this is what's happening. And he said, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You've got to come to Nashville and see Tommy, his son, who has a thriving practice. And so I went there. I didn't lose my tooth. I learned more than I knew before, but I knew a lot because of Uncle Tom's varied background. And every time they came to visit, we learned more about the mouth and the teeth. So I knew that was going to happen. So I'm very happy to still have my tooth, have learned a lot, and be in a position to share him today. So I wanted to go over his educational background. He has a degree in biology and chemistry. He's got a doctorate of dental surgery from UT Health Science Center. He served in the U.S. Navy and resigned his commission as lieutenant commander. He's been in general dentistry and oral medicine for 38 years. And he has studied microbiology of the mouth for 42 years. He's got so many firsts. I'm having to read this, but I'm not even touching on even half of this. He was the first dentist in the U.S. to use the DNA PCR testing for oral microbiome in both disease and health. He was the first dentist to speak at the Cleveland Clinic and the Cleveland Heart Lab. He was the first dentist to speak to Harvard and the Cambridge Health Alliance on the topic of saliva testing as an important model in general medicine. And he created the first salivary clinical lab in the United States. And I'll finally close with this. When I was there this last visit, he has a flock of chickens that neighbor to him, and he's like a chicken whisperer. And
Yes.
he's got a loves him named Ralph.
Ralph.
So I'm gonna turn over whisperer / dentist and my uncle to you, Curt.
Thank you, Paula. I really appreciate that. Dr. Tom, welcome to our podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Curt.
Thank
you so much.
I'm glad niece Paula got to introduce you, because I would never have known the story about Ralph. I would not have known that about you.
Ralph's my favorite rooster.
Well, we were in Italy, and my son picked up a chicken over there in Italy, and he named it. I forgot what he named it, but he had a chicken buddy too. But I'm excited about how much. I mean, I feel like I need to go back to school to catch up with you to have a conversation here with all the accolades that Paula shared. But we're really here to talk about something that you shared with me is close to your heart. And and when you shared that with me, we were just talking, and Dr. Tom, this is a whole new category of health that our company Juice Plus is entering.
Yes.
And you got excited. I know you ordered the product and you're on it. And
I did. I did.
Can we, and you can go wherever you want to go, but I think, the audience here, there are a lot of buzzwords that I'd love for you to kind of just dive in and explain. I mean, we're saying you need to have good gut health. You need to protect your microbiome. And I know, can you make the connection between oral and gut microbiomes, but also just tell people what a microbiome is? I think some people don't even know. They just say the word and don't know.
Sure. Well, great questions. Thank you so much for that. When we just define the word microbiome, it's just an all-inclusive word, originates from the word microbiology, and in 1988, it was first used to actually define all of the microorganisms that live in a specific area. So if we're talking about, as an example, the microbiome of the soil, we would be talking about those microorganisms that reside in the soil. If we're talking about the human microbiome, we're talking about all those microorganisms that reside in the human. And then we can break that up into various parts of the human. We can say there is the gastrointestinal microbiome or the gut microbiome. And then our discussion today will be about the oral microbiome. And that includes all the microorganisms that are included in our study of the oral microbiome. So relative to the connection that we're talking about, I think that's really what we really want to talk about today, is if I can kind of go back in history a little bit in my practice as a general dentist, and also as a surgeon, and also very interested in the diseases of the mouth. What I really recognized is that we first thought that all diseases in the mouth were caused from diet. Certainly that's a part of it, but what we really, when we dive deeper into that, what we recognize is that the inappropriate diets, such as high sugars, actually change the pH in the mouth to a more acidic environment, and that acidic environment changes the oral microbiome. So the diseases that occur in the mouth, the local diseases, change certain microorganisms to become pathogenic, or in other words, disease causing. But more importantly, and really that's important because that's what dentists do, they fix teeth or replace teeth, a very important part, of course, the human anatomy. But getting to the subject, it's really been in really the past 2.5, 3 decades that we've understood the oral microbiome because of its influence on the rest of the body. We've known for centuries that the mouth was connected to the rest of the body, but we didn't really know how that was. And if we really narrow that focus down, it's the oral microbiome that connects to the gut microbiome that makes all of these connections to immune dysfunction, to neurological disorders, to metabolic disorders, to cardiovascular disease. So it's this communication between microorganisms in the mouth and the other microorganisms that create a story that we would call dysfunctional systemic inflammation.
So, I mean, as a layperson, I think of that old
Yeah,
song, Dr. Tom, the knee bone's connected to the thigh
absolutely.
bone's connected.
Yes,
Yeah. So I'm not
right.
going to sing for everybody, but it
No,
make
I hear you.
that makes sense to me that it is all
Yeah,
connected. So what's going on up here in the mouth has got the
that's right.
esophagus connecting it all the way down.
That's right.
So
Yes.
when we talk about a healthy microbiome, tell me if you think this description is accurate, because
Yeah, sure.
one of the things that we've used, and I, as a layperson, I'm trying to come up with ways to describe things so the average person can understand them. Do you
Yeah.
think the microbiome in the oral cavity, as well as the gut and all the way up and down, is it kind of like a farm where we need to plant the right stuff there so it can be healthy? Is that a good analogy?
That's a great analogy to that. I think we all are aware, those of us who actually have a history, a family history where we actually originated from farm life and went back and visited our aunts and uncles and grandparents that had farms, we recognized, and even growing our own gardens, that the soil has to be prepared, and we also have to protect the soil even once it's prepared. So what we provide for the soil is incredibly important. So the connection that you're making there is from the human microbiome standpoint of view. It's all about really how we, let's say, how this originates from even from our mothers. That's the beginning point of this, and we might talk about that in a little while as well. But also, once our microbiome is being established as children, even into adults, it's how we protect that microbiome. And the foods that we eat, the supplements that we provide for that, not only provides important cellular function, but also provides very, very important immune function as well. So the human microbiome, we would die if we didn't have a healthy human microbiome.
Well, so thank you for that. That helps me because I can use that analogy. But I have one other
Yes.
question, because
Yeah,
I've
sure.
been with the Juice Plus company, as you know, as Paula
Yeah,
has, Dr. Tom, for over
sure.
30 years. And
Yes.
we are a company that we didn't want to be number two, number three, number four, number five in a bunch of different categories. We wanted to go into a category of health and be number one and own it and stay the best. And that's evidence with our
Right.
fruit, veggie, and berry product, because
Right.
we have almost 50 medical studies now, and we're the most researched product of that type in the world. But this is, and one of the reasons I'm talking to you, and I think people are listening, is we're entering a new category. We have made a decision over multiple years of research and investment that this microbiome arena is worth having the right products to bridge the gap so that we take care of it correctly, just like we bridge the gap between the fruits and vegetables we should eat and do eat. So I know that probiotic, let's define another term. A
Yeah,
lot of people
sure.
have been
Sure.
on a probiotic for a
Yeah.
long time. What is a probiotic?
Yeah. Well, a probiotic is actually a ingredient or a food product that provides food for the microorganisms. Good food for that's what it's intended to do.
So the
And
probiotics are, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, it can also be microorganisms that are good microorganisms that provide, let's say, incentive for the other good microorganisms to repopulate. So good organisms help other good organisms propagate.
So, I mean, I'm kind of going back to our farm analogy. The probiotic are kind of like the seeds we
Yeah.
put in the ground, and they are these
Yes.
microscopic
Yeah.
bacteria
Yeah.
and organisms. And
That's right.
what I've
Yes.
learned is this gut health arena is not new, but most people only take probiotics. And I don't remember the numbers. If I did, I would quote them. And if I tried to say it, I'd quote it incorrectly. But way over
Yes.
75%, a huge percentage of people that are using probiotics don't notice any difference. And what we've discovered,
Yes.
and Juice Plus didn't want to just be another probiotic.
Yeah.
like you were talking, you got to feed it. So our product is actually a prebiotic and a probiotic. So the prebiotic is like the fibers that feed these good organisms. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's correct.
And
That is correct.
the outcome of these two things together is what we call a postbiotic, which is the short chain
Yes.
fatty acids, the butyrate, and like you said earlier, it's the things that make our immune system have a place to live. 70% of our immune system. It makes our happy
Right.
hormone. God gave us serotonin. It takes care of our skin. So when you've been doing all this analysis over the years, tell us why you think and how severe you think the problem is of the unhealthiness of this microbiome. And this is going to be funny. You've never heard me say this probably, but we talk about this the sad American diet. It's
Yes.
it's contributed to something that needs a lot of help. And I'm excited that Juice Plus is jumping in here. But can you
Absolutely.
talk about how severe the problem is a little bit?
Well, absolutely. So when we look at the function of the, let's say, the gut microbiome and the oral microbiome, and we're feeding it with the appropriate microbiomes to increase the value of the human microbiome, what we realize is that the foods and processed foods that we are eating do not provide enough nutrients for us to continue to provide the ingredients for the good microbiome. As an example, I don't know whether we have a chance to talk about the function of the oral microbiome along with the gut and along with the cells of the vascular tissues, the endothelium, the production of, let's say, are the production of nitric oxide, as an example. The nitrate nitrite reduction cycle actually begins in the mouth. It's an area that is often overlooked. While we know that the gut is a very responsible area and the endothelium are very responsible for producing this incredibly valuable a molecule or gas that we call nitric oxide, it's very important that we realize we need approximately 300 to 400 milligrams of nitrate from fruits and vegetables, particularly vegetables, the greens and the beets and so forth, that are provided, by the way, in the Juice Plus products. We need 300 to 400 milligrams of nitrates to help produce the nitric oxide that's critical for living. And yet the average individual only eats about 150 milligrams of nitrates in their food. So we're missing at least 50%, maybe more of this. And so that's just an example of the value of adding appropriate nutrients from, as an example, the Juice Plus products.
So, I mean, that being one example, we use the example, you
Yeah,
probably heard it, Dr. Tom, with
yeah,
like with an apple.
yeah.
There are 10,000 phytonutrients in an apple. And you were just given like, there are probably 10,000 examples of what happens in
Yes,
that gut microbiome. But it's all the more reason to me, just like we don't want to just take care of, we don't want to cut things out and diagnose them after they happen. We want to do things that are preventative in nature. And
absolutely.
the things you're talking about, they're only going to happen in a healthy gut microbiome. What I know,
Absolutely.
just to venture
Yeah,
off here into a minute, I know you're not delivering
yeah,
babies these days, but
right.
uh,
Yeah,
Paula, your cousin slash niece, however, whatever we want to call her, she loves you like an uncle. I know that.
yes,
Um,
sure.
you've got a little bit of a story about the connection with motherhood, reproductive biology that
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
Paula would love for us to let everybody hear because it's meant so much to her.
Well, I appreciate that. And this has really kind of been a relatively new study for me over the past 3 or 4 years. In fact, I've worked with one of the most renowned OBGYNs in the country around this story because unfortunately, most OBGYNs and those that are associated with young moms that are going to have babies and the story behind all of that and the human microbiome is so critical in that area. What I've learned in looking at the research is that the oral microbiome is critically important in the establishment of the gut microbiome. In fact, today we call it the gut or the oral gut microbial axis. And so when you think of the fetus and the unborn baby inside the uterus there, what we recognize is that certain microorganisms can pass the placental barrier and the umbilical barrier there relative to the establishment of microorganisms, not only in the mouth, but also in the gut. We used to think that the establishment of the oral microbiome begins at birth, and certainly that's critically important there, because once birth occurs and through the birth process, the microbiome begins to really develop very, very rapidly. So the story that I want to say here today is that the young moms to be are so critical in this story of establishing a healthy microbiome in general. The gut microbiome, oral microbiome, and everything goes through the mouth, not only in the fetus, but also after birth. And so what we've learned too from the research is that within 8 to 16 hours, the oral microbiome is already being reestablished. And by day 3 of the newborn, the baby has basically 98% of the same oral microbiome that the mother has. Now that's feeding the gut microbiome as well. So as time goes on, as the baby suckles and as the baby is giving food, and as the baby comes in contact with the mom and the dad and the siblings, this is what we call horizontal transmission. So however the microbiomes are present in the family members, they are being established also in the baby itself. So the point that we want to make here is that the young mom and the dad and the siblings want to have a very healthy mouth and a very healthy gut because they are establishing the microbiome for this newborn. So I would suggest too that medicine itself is missing this very critical area of the importance of the mouth, where everything goes, including the establishment of the gut microbiome. So I would also suggest too that young moms, especially young moms that are going to, of course, all of us, but particularly young moms, should be very much aware of the products that are being developed, that already have been developed relative to the probiotics and the prebiotics to help establish this microbiome, not only to protect the mom, but also to protect this baby as it's being formed.
That is an amazing, and not just another connection about how all the parts of our body are integrated and work together. I told you
Yeah.
that I might, because you and I kind of developed this trust relationship. You said I could ask you anything, but
Absolutely.
let me do one thing. Let me
Sure.
talk a little bit about our product, and I want to ask you a specific
Sure.
question. So
Sure. Yeah.
we have a
Sure.
breakthrough in that we have prebiotics that feed the probiotics. There are 9 strains of bacteria that are the 9 most important strains to be in your gut. And then we've got the prebiotic that feeds it. But there's something interesting, and I'm asking this, totally don't
Yeah.
know the answer.
Sure.
So
Okay.
there is acid in your stomach that a lot of things that we need in our body are not able
Yeah.
to pass that acid barrier. So you've got some absorption that happens in the mouth, but then to get to
Yes.
your gut, it has to go through this acidic area. How important is it that Juice Plus has kind of got a unique and created this patented formula where we have an acid resistant capsule so that probiotic does land where it needs to land in the gut? Can you explain that acidic relationship and how important that is?
Well, I'm not sure that I can explain it exactly. I've never been asked this question before, but it's very, very critical, important. I would tie it also to the story relative to this oral gut axis. And so if I can use this analogy, early on in my studies relative to the oral microbiome, I couldn't understand how the oral microbiome connected to the gut microbiome because of what you said, the acid in the stomach,
Right.
because the acid in the stomach would kill all the microorganisms that you swallow. But what we recognize today is that certain microorganisms can actually bind with certain elements in saliva that protect it from the gut acid, from the stomach acids, and then passes through into the small and large intestine.
Hmm.
So with that in mind, we need to recognize that we have to have a product that resists the acid from the stomach so that it can pass from the stomach into the small intestine. And you guys have solved that problem.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah.
you're saying. So I would use that analogy, a similar analogy in nature, microorganisms have a way of being killed, certain microorganisms, not all of them, certain microorganisms to get from the stomach to the intestines. And you all have solved that problem with this very important protective layer that allows it to pass through.
All right. Well, I really appreciate that. And I want to ask you one question as we kind of head
sure.
towards landing this plane. Would you come
Sure.
back and we can pick some of these more detailed topics and we can dive deeper? Is that a fair request?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I would love to do that. I appreciate so much your interest, appreciate all the work that you all have done in establishing for me and for my family these kinds of ingredients. I've been a promoter of probiotics for many years, and I love the research that y'all have done about this Super Biome probiotic and prebiotic. In fact, it's here on my desk. I received it a couple of days ago. I can't imagine anybody listening to us today that would not desire to protect not only their individual microbiome, but also the microbiome of their family, especially the development of the microbiome from the earliest part of birth throughout the time that they are with our family.
Well, Dr. Tom, I've got a zillion questions for you, but we try and make this podcast be about 30
Sure.
minutes because,
Yes.
what does it say? That the mind can only focus on what the seat can endure. So we know people have been
Yes,
sitting
sir.
here for a minute,
Got it.
but I want to wrap up because
Yeah.
you've heard from Dr. Tom and they're dental colleagues and different medical professions listening today. But I wanted just to tell you from a layperson's perspective, I have learned so much about this, even before I knew we were coming out with this product, from my body being zapped with steroids for 18 days when I was in the hospital with COVID. Never took the shot, never got
Yeah.
never was ventilated, but the steroids mess with my metabolism, mess with my gut, mess with my insulin sensitivity. And I've been on a journey to fight and get that back. And I understand the importance of what a healthy gut does, to be off all
Yes.
medications for that now. And let's just summarize it. It's 70%
Sure.
to 80% of where your immune cells live. It is
Absolutely.
where
Yes.
serotonin is produced. It's also
Yes.
where there's skin health, but also your metabolism. That butyrate, which is the end of the process, the prebiotic plus postbiotic equals postbiotic. That's the
Yeah.
short chain fatty acids, and butyrate increases the production of GLP-1. And we've all heard from pharmaceutical companies and shots and the whole weight loss industry how important GLP-1 is in your body's metabolism. And this can help you make it naturally. So I'm going to invite Dr. Tom back, but I want to close letting you know this. There are a few people in my life that are like allergic to subscriptions. Is anybody out there like, I don't want to subscribe, I just want to try it? Well, the world today says you get a better price, you get a discount if you subscribe. And if you subscribe to this new Super Biome product, you do get the best price and you can cancel at any time. But for those of you that want to try something that's a breakthrough in this health industry, it's one-time purchase, no subscription. You can get a 15% discount until November the 15th. So get with the person that invited you if you want to get that. And Dr. Tom, do you have one closing remark? If there was a dental colleague or another healthcare professional on the line, what would you tell them knowing this new information?
Well, I appreciate that. And what I would really like to end with by instilling all of us in this thought process, and that is the oral gut microbial axis exists. It is a bidirectional relationship between the microorganisms of the mouth and microorganisms of the gut. So if we can improve the microorganisms of the gut and all the functions that are there, we'll also improve the microorganisms of the mouth. What I would like for us to discuss maybe at another particular time is how can we improve the microorganisms of the mouth that can improve the microorganisms of the gut? Because what we're really talking about, and I'll just end by saying this, I've learned a few years ago from a study that was called The Future of Medicine, and it was called the 4 Ps. Can we predict disease? Can we prevent disease? Can we personalize treatment for those with the disease? And the 4th P is participatory. In other words, can we get our patient involved in participating in this whole solution? And what we've learned today is the patient has to have a 50-50 relationship with the provider in order for us to do all of the rest of it there. So I would suggest, as a participant in medicine myself, as a patient, as we all are, is do everything we can to predict and protect ourselves from the diseases that we would call chronic inflammatory diseases. And certainly having a probiotic and a prebiotic goes hand in hand with this conversation of predicting, preventing, and personalizing.
Dr. Tom, thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you enough. If I was
There you
there,
go.
I'd give you a big bear hug and say thank you right now.
Well,
But
thank you, Curt.
I know
Good night.
I know you're doing something that's real important today. You're going to Grandparents' Day. You get to be grandpa. So
I am.
I'm proud of you
Grandparents'
getting to
Day,
do
yes.
that. So let me
Already
let me
go.
wrap us up here and just say thank you for joining us. And remember, our podcast, we didn't name it Life, It's What Happens. No, life, it's what you make it. And I suggest that you take this opportunity to make the life you want. Get on this product, build a healthy gut microbiome for your own good. Pass it down, like Tom said, to your next generation. And let's all get healthier together. God bless and have an amazing day. Thanks for joining.